second tutorial is over composition. In this video, you'll see how to use space and a little bit of perspective in order to fill a certain area. Again, don't get too overwhelmed with references to past projects. And it looks from the other setting, okay? So here I have the top of my table. Now the legs of my table, I want to see a little bit of the top of this table here, okay? So I'm going to draw the top of the table coming across here. Alright, now since I've shown the top of this table, that means that the legs below are not going to be equal length. So you can see the top of that table. That means this table's at an angle. So the leg of the table might be just this long in the back, okay? And only this long on this side too. You see what I mean? Because you're looking at it from a different angle. Same thing goes for maybe the pot and the top of the table. So you have a bowl here or a pot. Okay, you may have this line coming around back to show a little bit of the top of the pot here, and then your plant could be at the top of this, okay? Alright, so let's go over here now. Let's do the stove. I'm going to draw my stove at a little bit of a different angle than what we did earlier, okay? Notice these lines again. See how they come farther apart as we grow out towards the viewer. We've got this angle on top of the table. We have to follow those same lines for your stove going inward, just like these have, okay? Alright, so we'll draw the top of the stove here. Again, I'm following the line for perspective here, right? Come down like this. Now notice what I'm doing. I'm drawing out. It's almost, I heard one student say, well, you know, it looks kind of 3D. And that's a really good way to put it. It does look a little three-dimensional. You can see different sides of it. It doesn't look flat, okay? You can think of it like that if you want. That's perfectly fine. Alright, so now we have maybe a stove here. Put some burners on the top of it. Okay, now what I'm going to do in the background here is draw a refrigerator. But the refrigerator, I'm going to draw facing the viewer, okay? And again, I'm drawing with this stylus. It makes it a little different to draw with. I really like drawing with the stylus. I love this tablet I'm using. I wish I had one. But it is different than paper for sure, okay? Alright, so now we have the bottom of the refrigerator. We'll run this over to about right here. Let's keep on going with it. That way we can move on and show you some more stuff. The window. Put some curtains on here maybe. So if this setting takes place in a kitchen, I'm adding things that you would typically see in a kitchen, right? And this is all part of building your story. You may say something as simple in your story as, you know, Alice walked down to have her cereal before school in the morning. All right, now with that, you don't mention the kitchen any, right? But whenever you start to draw your story and you put these details in, you want to add things like what you typically would see in a kitchen, right? So that's one example on how to create your kitchen using perspective. Okay, we're going to go ahead now and we're going to jump ahead and take a look at another example. Here what we're going to do, we're going to use what's known as exterior. And this is going to be kind of your general setting like we talked about earlier. You may have the moon and then you may also have a specific location like a crater on the moon. So for general location, we're going to be talking about pretty broad subject. So we'll do the moon first since we're talking about it. So I'm going to put a line down the page right here. And all this line is going to represent is the differences between, the two types of perspective we're going to use to create this picture. So there's our line, okay? All right, so let's grab our brush. We're going to go back over here. Now here's example A, we'll call it. And example B, right? Okay. For example A, I'm going to draw the moon surface, and its craters kind of going like this, coming down. Okay, something like that. And then I'm going to go back and add craters and things to the moon. So this is one way to do it. You want to add stars out here, right? Planets and things. So you could tell that this is taking place, you know, on some type of a lunar surface, right? You can add a little bit of detail, right? So this is one way to do it. Now let's in this version, I'm going to get a little more specific than this. We're going to be doing basically the same thing, but we're going to put more detail. For instance, what we could do is draw a rock face coming down. There are small types of mountain, not really mountains, but build up on the surface of the moon. It's not all flat. There are different types of formations that look something similar to this on the surface of the moon. So here we have an example for maybe a rock or something that's built up on the moon, okay? All right, so then back here, we could start going across. We could draw the crater standing out a little bit more. Draw the inside of the crater maybe. Keep on going this way. Once we get over here, we can start adding more of the buildup. Kind of resembles maybe a hill or a small hill. We put some shadow in there. Something like this. Okay, and then we can also add some more craters, more surface craters going on. We may add a couple more rocks over here, something to show just more detail to the setting. So how you choose to build your setting really matters a lot. It's okay to do a simple version like this, or you can do a little bit more complex. And so out here we could put the Earth. I know that's not a very good circle, but that's okay. We can draw the continents on the Earth coming down, put Greenland in there, some Europe, there we go. So then we could draw stars. Now you could see the difference between this version and this version. This is just more detailed. The setting has it's more specific to the setting. We're looking maybe at this one location. So where this would be looking at the entire surface of the moon over here, all right, in this perspective we could zoom in more. We may even put, like, I don't know, a little alien guy here or something. Maybe he's getting ready to mine for some mineral, right? you get the picture. Okay, we're going to do another example here, but with this one what we're going to do, we're actually going to use more of it's a general location. We're going to use the jungle though, and kind of give you an example of that one, okay? Alright, so go ahead and, I should have left my line up there, but that's okay. We'll add another one real fast. Okay, so here we go. Now, let's say your story has characters in it. Maybe there's monkeys, okay? I'm going to go ahead and draw this out for you. We'll draw a little monkey setting here. Now, monkeys sometimes, they're found in jungles, right? So we can put him sort of hanging out here. And we have to build the setting up around him, okay? So let's put him here. Maybe he's got his arms hanging down like this. And the other arm coming out. Like that. We'll draw his legs coming down. We'll have him sitting on a tree, okay? Alright. His tail coming up. Something like that. Okay. You can tell that's sort of a monkey, right? All right, so we could draw the tree limb coming out. Now, jungle settings have a lot of foliage or a lot of growth, green growth and things. We have ferns, trees, vines, flowers. There's a lot going on in the jungle. So if your story was to take place in a jungle, you may want to do a little research on what sorts of things you find in a jungle. Today I talked a lot about research, and it's really important that you do that. Research is very important with this kind of stuff. You need to know, what do you find typically in a jungle? What are the things you would see if you were to visit a jungle? You use those in your story then to help create your setting. So here we have a tree, got the little monkey sitting in the tree. We may add another rope hanging up here, or a vine, coming down like this. We'll add some limbs, some tree limbs, or leaves, coming out. So you may have something just as general as this. Maybe put a little bit of stuff behind him here to show that there's more foliage or trees or plant life going on, okay? So this could be one way to draw your jungle. And this is with the character included. So over here on this side, I'm going to do another example here, okay? You may start out with drawing ferns or plant life that's very close up to the picture plane, which is basically, like I said, the surface in which your images are going to appear on the page, okay? The closer up on the picture plane that you draw things, they're going to appear larger, of course, right? And with this, you could create interesting effects to your setting. And again, you really need to research, what sort of things do you see growing in a forest, and use that. You may not have cactus in this, for instance, or cacti growing in a jungle setting, but all right. So we'll draw some different types of plant life out here, and we'll draw maybe a path going off into the jungle. All right, there we go. I don't know if anyone's familiar with Bob Ross, but he was a painter. He used to do these television shows when I was younger on PBS, and I used to watch him. He had this really big beard, and he would always say things like, or draw a happy little tree. I don't know why he always called trees happy, but it's okay. So we're going to add a couple happy trees ourselves here. So here we have some more foliage or plant life, right? There's a lot of plant life in the jungle. So here's an example of maybe how you could do that. So we have the path coming down here. Okay, here's all the images. This is the front of your picture plane up close. When you get back here in this area, that's farther back in the picture plane. Same as over here. Okay, your monkey and the tree here, that's up close on the picture plane, but when you get further out, notice there's less detail, okay? When things appear farther back in the picture plane, which is, where you farther off in the distance, if you will, those things do not have to be as detailed as things appear up close. Now, I could add a ton more detail to this, but, for time reasons, we're moving along, okay? All right, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the hallway here. Remember that. Remember the perspective we talked about. We're going to use this again right now. And with this particular example, we're going to show you, or I'm going to show you, how your setting, how to use your setting if you are drawing the same setting over and over, especially if your setting changes, okay? If your setting changes a little bit. Now, it'll make more sense after I get started here, okay? All right, let me bring this down just a little bit so you can see. There we go. What I mean by that is, let's say, for instance, that you have a story on, think of Jack and the Beanstalk. There we go. That's a good example. Now, Jack and the Beanstalk takes place around a small cottage. Yes, there's a lot more going on in that story. When he goes to town, he trades the cow for beans and everything. But when the beanstalk grows, the setting changes, doesn't it? I mean, it grows all the way up into the heavens and stuff. So let's let's take that into consideration as we're doing this. I'm going to draw a farm, and I'm going to do a very kind of a very sketched version of it. It's going to be fairly quick here for time reasons, okay? All right, so first we're going to go ahead and add this little farmer guy. Put a little hat on him. Like I said, it's not going to be detailed. I'm just going to really fast. Here's our little farmer. Look at his overalls. And let's say he's looking at the ground, and all of this setting is going to be taking place surrounding this little garden, and the garden is going to be drawn right here. He's already marked off where the garden's going to be. Back here is just maybe some tree line coming out here, and then here's the barn, right? We'll draw it in the corner. And like I said, I'm not going to be using a whole lot of detail with this. We're just going to move along, okay? So here he is looking at the garden, all right? Now, I'm going to draw the same exact setting on this one, but I'm going to draw him doing something a little different. I'm going to draw him actually planting some seeds. So, drawing the garden coming down again, same thing as before. All right, we'll go ahead and add him in here, but this time we'll have him putting some seed in the ground. Okay? He's got his overalls. Let's have him holding a bag of seed or fertilizer maybe. Right here. Alright, he's got the fertilizer. He's standing there and the fertilizer's coming out on the ground. We can already make it so that he's maybe he's tilled the ground a little bit. We can draw these lines going in the dirt here to show that he's been working on planting his garden. Okay? And again, we'll show the tree line in the background coming over, stopping right here, and we'll draw the barn again. Okay? There we go. Now, alright, so now let's go down to the bottom panel here, and what we're going to do with this one, we're going to advance on that a little bit more. We're going to draw the garden once again, stop about right there, and we're going to have him this time actually planting the seeds, because we had the fertilizer in the first one there. So with this one, let's have him actually planting the seeds, okay? So he's got his cup of seeds out, and he's pouring it into the ground here. All right. We show that he's, like, once again, tilled the ground. I guess you'd put fertilizer on, yeah, before you plant the seeds, I guess, maybe in some cases. Not really sure. I've only grown tomatoes. Anyway, so we've got the ground tilled, and draw our tree line, draw our barn, once again. Alright, and in the last one, what we're going to do is we're going to draw our farmer, and we're going to draw him looking at his garden. He's happy. The garden has produced some vegetables. Okay, we could draw him over here with his hat and his bill of his hat here like this, his ears. Just draw him smiling. He's happy. He's going to have some good food. There's his overalls again. Alright, and then here we can show how the garden is growing. Now notice how simple my approach here is. I'm not adding a whole lot of detail. This doesn't look like anything you'd find in Marvel Comics. Of course, I'm rushing to show you how to do these things, for one, but number two, you may not want to draw like Marvel or DC. You may want to create your own type of style. Think of the Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Those books do not look like anything you typically find in a Disney movie. Okay? It's not about, like I said before and all along, it's not about your ability to draw like those really big, well-known companies and such, or artists from those companies, but it's about your ability to tell a story, okay? And combining pictures with words to do that.